You may already have heard the sad news that in just under a week, the world will end. That's not what scientists will tell you, of course, but they're rubbish at predicting the end of the world. I mean, they keep saying it's not going to be for billions of years. They never say it's going to be on Saturday, but this has been worked out by a Christian who says that Judgment Day is coming on the 21st of May 2011 because he's looked in the Bible and there are numbers in there, and if you multiply them by some other numbers and take some stuff as a metaphor and take some other stuff literally to the point of being completely insane, then you come up with infallible proof that the Bible guarantees that the rapture is going to be this weekend. And I'm not overstating the case, they are that certain about it on this website. And it's actually quite unusual for them to be so definite about it. There's always somebody, usually from a religious sect, finding some forthcoming cataclysm to start shouting about, but quite often they don't say exactly what's going to happen. They tend to leave themselves some sort of wiggle room. They might talk about a time of great upheaval and then later point to one of the earthquakes, which are always happening anyway, and say that that proved it. Or they'll warn us that God's going to punish the world to express his anger at gay people or Muslim presidents or whatever he's upset about now, but then say that God changed his mind and decided to spare us because they prayed hard enough, as if God was running some sort of protection racket and has to be bought off. Or like the tooth fairy, because when you lose a tooth, the tooth fairy sort of hones in on the scent of that tooth, and then you have to pay your pocket money that week to stop her from coming and taking all your other teeth in the night. That's what all parents tell their children, isn't it? Sorry, the world's ending. Where was I? Yeah, so usually people predicting the end of the world or something similarly apocalyptic like this tend to give themselves more of a get-out clause. So it seems kind of unusual that these people have picked a very specific date in the very near future when something is definitely going to happen which can't be avoided, and it'll be obvious to everyone on the planet whether or not it's actually happened. But these guys are really going for it and are urging people to become Christians now, quickly, before it's too late, as if repenting their sins to the Christian God was something that most people were planning to get around to someday, but just haven't quite found the time for yet. And it's quite sad how seriously some people are taking this. I mean, the people behind the organisation that are pushing this idea have no doubt in their minds that it is happening this Saturday. Their website has a sort of frequently asked questions section, and one of the questions on it is, what happens on May the 21st if there is no rapture? What does that mean for us if this biblical prophecy doesn't come true? And their answer is to refuse to answer the question. They just say, it is going to happen, it will happen, and that seems to answer everything to their own satisfaction. And yes, it'll be hilarious seeing how they respond after the weekend and if they manage to scrape any credibility together at all. But other people are just going to be screwed. There's a guy in New York who spent his entire retirement savings, $140,000, on advertising campaigns around the city to warn people of what's coming. And he's clearly a decent guy. If he's really convinced the world is ending that soon, which apparently he is, he could have bought so much cocaine and hookers with that kind of money. But he's bravely sacrificing all that in a misguided effort to help people, and I don't think people like that deserve to be fucked over by someone else's numerological bullshit. But he's not the first, and he won't be the last. There are plenty of people who've sold their houses and everything they own in preparation for the end times, or in the worst case scenarios even committed suicide, so that they could leave their bodies and spiritually ascend into a spaceship. They just get committed so firmly to this one idea, and the more they've invested in it, the more difficult it becomes to escape from, that eventually they just can't conceive of any other way of thinking. They can't even bring themselves to answer the question of what would happen if it turns out you're wrong about this, which I think is the sign of a truly dedicated fanatic. And it's something you see in religion possibly more often than any other field. There's certainly a lot less of it on the non-religious side. If you ask an atheist what would happen if you die and you're faced by the Christian God, they're probably quite capable of imagining how they would react to a situation like that. They just don't consider it likely. Personally, I would say to God, what the hell were you thinking? And that would be the first of a number of rather irritable questions I'd have for him. But at least I can give some sort of an answer. And if you can't even have that discussion, then you're effectively saying that reality doesn't really matter to you, and that what's true isn't as important or interesting to you as what you've already decided. Which is why it's so frustrating for the rest of us when somebody picks out one little pattern from amidst all the noise and fixates on that as the only interpretation of reality, and then starts getting all end of the worldy about it. Wait a minute. The end is nigh. If you take the words "the end is nigh," add my username on this YouTube channel, and rearrange the letters. Oh my god. It's so obvious, I don't know how I didn't see it before. First of all, no one calls me Jim. No one has ever called me Jim. So who would be that informal? It's obvious that God is the only one who could know me that well, and the only one who could have sent this message. And the rest of it speaks for itself. Spiced hen sign. Where do you get spiced hen, or chicken with spices? KFC. God wants me to go to every Kentucky Fried Chicken outlet in the country and steal their shop signs. Obviously all those giant K's, F's and C's play some crucial part in his divine plan. I guess I'd better get going then. If the world's still here next Monday, I'll see you then.